Hello and welcome to Podcasting is Praxis. It's another very special episode because today it may actually seem like screaming and crying because we've got, we don't talk about the weather on. Adam and Hugh are here. Welcome, you guys.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
No worries. And then we've also got Jamie on.
All right.
And Alistair.
Hello. I believe the topic of discussion today is to do with the London election. So we've gotten two members of the Islington lefty cult elite on today.
They're here. The London elite are here.
I have been to Islington. I have been there.
Damned by your own words.
Prefer Stowe Illuminati.
Yeah, I think we are. I think we may be among the rare podcasters in the UK that don't have anybody in London. If I'm reasonably sure about that.
I'm like your best attempt, and I'm still on the outskirts. I'm in Essex, so
it will be London in about like a year and a half.
Oh so yeah, I mean, you know, as more and more mass accumulates in the centre of the black hole that is London, eventually I'm going to spaghettify and just enter, you know, the actual city of London, like, feet first.
Well, that was the thing my mum used to say for years. She used to say, like, why would you want to leave Medway? Medway will essentially be part of London soon anyway. And it's like, I don't think it ever will be.
Medway only just started getting, like, articles saying, if you live in London but want to commute. Like, it only got those, like, 2 years ago, and those have been, like, a decade-long thing.
Great, my two favourite things are extortionate property prices and having to commute. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's so weird, because they bypassed Medway and went straight to Whitstable. Because that's it, everyone moved down to Whitstable, like, 5 years ago,
Yeah, they went to Whitstable
maybe?
and Margate, yeah.
Yeah. Weird.
Because it's nicer than fucking Medway.
But did you guys see there was this recent spate of articles, I think in the Telegraph, because of course the Telegraph, they had all these like, where to buy an hour outside London with your Corona money. It's like cheap houses for under £1 million. And it's like, what?
It was all a lot of ones with like the most serene commute. It was something like that, the most calming commute. Talking about
here are our choice cuts of properties that have been begun to become contaminated by the poisoned blood of London along its train routes.
An hour outside of London seems like an incredibly vague measurement. Like, do you know what I mean? That includes Belgium by plane, and, like, Iraq by one of Saddam Hussein's missiles.
Nice. And Peterborough.
And just about Faversham.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to include like Manchester or something by the time we get Hyperloops, so it'll all be good.
I mean, you joke, but I used to have a manager who commuted from Cornwall all the way to our office in Canary Wharf. That lasted a long time before she took.
What was he on, like a 3-hour day?
well, she went to the office once a month allegedly, but she turned up to the office once in the 7-month period after this change got made, and then she just left the company.
I mean, I don't mind commuting like the length of the country if it's once a month. Do you know what I mean? I would do that for money.
Yeah, but Jamie, she couldn't even manage that. That's the point.
I mean, I probably wouldn't. I've never managed to fucking stick with any job I've ever had. So
I think there's some friends of mine who live in London who commute for way longer than an hour. They live in London and it takes about an hour and a half. Adam, it used to take you like about 2 hours.
Oh yeah, no, I used to commute from Hounslow, and that took me 40, 50 minutes.
Yeah,
and that's only into Central as well. It wasn't across the entire. Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to it, but I think there are many exciting solutions to these travel problems coming up on this episode.
Do any of them involve Elon Musk firing Teslas down a sewer pipe?
Very, very close, yes. Now, I just wanted to start with a few small things. It's another day on the British Isles, so it's another fire-and-rehire scheme coming your way soon. This is the JDE coffee workers at the Banbury coffee plant. They are going on overtime strike because the company that owns the plant, JDE, is threatening to fire and rehire all of them, despite the company last year making a £1.28 billion profit for the group owners. But, everybody's going to get sacked and
this ties into one of my favourite things that started cropping up on Twitter recently, which is companies in the US that have been like, no one wants to work anymore. And it's like, You know, it's like a
Wendy's.
Wendy's.
There was Subways and somebody else, right?
Yeah, it's like a Wendy's. It's like, oh, no one wants to work anymore. Like a sad post-it note stuck to one of the drive-through intercom things, and it's no, motherfucker. Just people don't want to work for minimum fucking wage in the middle of a pandemic when they've gotten like any money at all from the government.
Mm-hmm.
But these companies are like some of the like franchises are voluntarily like closing down stores and going out of business because they'd rather do that than raise wages, which is so amazing.
Coronavirus has done a real number on like managerial psychology.
Yeah,
because they don't have they now that people have actually experienced, it's like, well, actually, there's a way of doing things without working people to the bone. Like they. And also there's the idea floated that you don't actually have to monitor people every second of every day. Like their
but they'll
reason
try.
for being...
it'll
come right back. It's one of the reasons I think the working from home thing is like just a fake thing. But I think it will come roaring back. But it's really done a number.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the one hand, you've got the middle managers that have suddenly realised that actually they're sort of surplus to requirement, and also on the other hand, you have... and I've said this before on the podcast, which is a bunch of higher ups in businesses going, why are we forking out millions of pounds a year for like thousands of square footage of offices in London?
For premises, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember we read some article by some psycho about how actually offices have always been this way, therefore they should never change. And it's like, like a harsh wind
that
blew
article last week where it was something about how a study had shown that people like actually don't like working from home because like some people are missing the office environment. It's like,
the office banter thing.
Every single one of them is
like you can't go out anywhere. You can't go out anywhere for a year and a half. You probably are going to start missing like the office. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah, you're not substituting it with anything else, are you? And that's basically all your social life ends up reducing
once
like
you can work from home,
family, and that's it.
Once you can work from home and then go to the pub on an evening, I don't think anyone's going to want to go back to the fucking office then, are they?
Oh, Nick Ferrari, it's one of his favourite things when I wake up in the morning for my rage coffee.
Yeah.
You just wake up with steam billowing out of your ears.
It's like people want to get back to work. They really want to be back in the office. Like me, I'm really happy about going back to the office again. And it's like, you get picked up from your massive house in South London in a car and driven to work for 3 hours.
Yeah, in a big glass goldfish bowl where you can do your racism, and they feed you pellets, I assume.
And then he's driven back. And it's like that's not what everyone else's experience is. For fuck's sake!
Now, come on, there's the massive amounts of research he has to do that go into every show.
What you mean?
To be fair,
he's producer?
No, it's all right. To be fair, Magic Nawaz is the one who does the research to find the white genocide people to call in for Pakistan.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Sorry, Magic Nawaz does that stuff.
That must be one of the worst jobs in existence, to be the call screeners on LBC. Like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, there must be some real delight. The thing is, I shouldn't listen to it, but when I started listening to it, they used to have the odd show where they had no call screens at all, and it was excellent. They used to do a conspiracy theory thing late at night on on one of the weekends.
I want a radio program where I stare directly into the void.
Yep. That's when Peter Cook used to phone in as well. There's like a load of good Peter Cook phone calls where he used to pretend to be a Norwegian fisherman looking for his lost love.
But yeah, anyway, just to briefly return, like the JDE, 300 JDE coffee workers, they're going to go on strike, at least regarding overtime from May 1. And of course, full solidarity and support. They're being supported by Unite. So if that's your union, see what you can do for them. And apparently this coffee plant is mainly responsible for Tassimo, Kenko, and L'Or coffee. So those are like 3 of the big supermarket brands. So if you run short in May, that's because your fellow workers are on strike and you should support them and, I don't know, drink something else. Well, is it again chicory or something? That shit they used to drink in the war instead of coffee.
What is chicory? Is it just like bits of wood?
Yeah, no, it's a root of some variety. I can't remember what exactly it is.
Stick some sawdust in like a boiling water. There you go.
We had a bottle of I think it was chicory in the cupboard for like about 8 years, and we had no idea why or like where it had come from.
How was it?
We threw it out in the end because it like grew legs. Do you know what I mean? It was just
I refused to pay rent.
Yeah.
You should have just like drank it on the death day of Philip in salute because he too drank chicory in the war.
fucking Juliet ass way to go out.
But yeah, I mean, but we're on the cusp of a new revolution because the Treasury and the Bank of England are now maybe getting into the Bitcoin trend, cutely named Britcoin by Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Fuck off.
The name's half the battle.
Yeah.
There is already one called Britcoin, though.
Yeah.
Is there?
I think there is. Yeah,
Of course there is. There must be.
Yeah, you're going to have that. Do you remember when people thought that Rishi Sunak was smart? I say people, idiots. But when they were all saying he's smart, and now he's just going to become he's going to properly become what he always was, which is a weird crypto guy.
I mean, it was basically just that all stemmed from a bunch of columnists going weak at the knees because he doesn't look entirely like the weird ghouls that constitute the rest of the Tory party. You know, he doesn't look like he's been stewed under a log for 100 years.
I mean, to be fair, like Mervyn King also looked like a haunted owl, so like I'm not. But yeah, this is the Britcoin, and the idea is it will allow individuals like us, well, not me, but like you guys, to have Bitcoin accounts at the Central Bank of England instead of having one at yeah.
So
wait. Isn't like now I'm not I don't particularly understand how exactly cryptocurrencies work, but my limited understanding is that the whole point of the entire enterprise is that there's no central bank.
Yeah.
So I looked into this, right? And I don't know if it's actually, like, I don't think it's blockchain based or anything like that.
It is blockchain based, but like blockchain based, like everything is blockchain based. Like people just claim this shit.
Yeah, because it's just like it's a digital currency backed by the Bank of England, right?
Yeah.
And
also it's denominated in pound sterling, so I'm not sure like.
So they've just come up with like post office accounts again, have they?
Yeah.
They just call it Bitcoin now.
Doesn't sound like I could use this to buy drugs on Telegram, so it doesn't sound worthwhile.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to back the gold that my World of Warcraft characters have with the money in my bank account, and then I'm just going to buy all my do all my transactions in WoW Gold because it's backed by So. That's how I'm going to buy my weekly shop. You know. I
mean, if it's backed by a central bank, it might actually be good. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to just a pyramid scheme for dipshits.
Yeah, it would just be the same because it wouldn't fluctuate in value depending on how many people had that particular digital currency. It would be like, oh no, it's just a pound. It's just a pound, but on a
just a pound, and you can spend it on things. You're not at the mercy of Elon Musk's fucking Twitter account.
Yeah,
Jamie, you're really on one about Elon today, aren't you?
Oh, but just the biggest fucking dipshit on earth. Do you know what I mean? We should just rebrand as an Elon Musk podcast, to be honest, because every fucking week he comes up because he's just, you know what I mean. Whether he's done anything or not, he's just fucking like omnipresent with his berserk Egyptry, isn't he?
So, like, essentially how it would work, and I read the report by the Bank of England because, you know, I like to rock and roll, is essentially it's like you would just pay for something in the shop. The payment would go to, like, a commercial payment provider, so something like Visa or MasterCard or something like that. And then they would then send the payment to, like, another intermediary layer, and then there would be, like, 5 or 6 of those. And then that would go to the central bank, which keeps the central ledger of all payments. So like,
it's just money. They've just invented money.
They've invented money.
But there's one upside.
There's more steps so that people can take a cut. Fantastic.
No, but there's one thing in between that might actually, like in a theoretical sense, could be good. Is in this model you don't need banks, like you don't need RBS or HSBC or anybody else, because it's just you, MasterCard, like I don't know, somebody with a big bank of processors, and then the central bank. So like you could get rid of banks.
A series of people I implicitly trust.
Well, that sounds like, I mean, stop me if you've heard this model before, but like in a world of kind of private providers providing a national provider that's a lot easier to use and is a lot kind of cheaper, sounds a bit like Corbyn's plan for like power and water. It's like, not quite nationalising the entire sector, but just making national company of your own.
Yeah, I mean, in the report, they're extremely explicit that like the two steps in between you and the central bank, so the payment provider and the data aggregator, those would be private companies, private. But like, you could turn this model quite easily into just, central bank to you. Like that's possible. I mean, I don't know if it's possible because, as we've discussed on several episodes now, Bitcoin is literally setting the planet on fire. So like, I'm not sure this is like a way we could do it, but it's an interesting, like there could be an upside, but given that this is this government coming up with it, it's just going to be scam.
Because I mean, like, the principle behind Bitcoin setting the world on fire is that it's a thing that they have to grow, isn't it? You have to mine Bitcoin in order to create more of it. And this isn't being mined, right?
No, I mean, as far as I understand it, and I will confess, I didn't read 80 pages for like what I thought was going to be a 5-minute conversation. So, I mean, technically, if it's just a ledger maintained by the central bank, then it doesn't need additional coins because they could just create them with a touch of button as they do now in quantitative easing and shit. So, like
going into Paint and copying and pasting more JPEGs.
Well, they're saving all the precious metals for the Prince Philip Memorial coins.
Mm. Are those coming? I haven't seen those yet. They must be coming.
There must be.
Oh, yeah, because the thing that everyone wants on the fucking on the flip side of their coin is the face of a literal zombie.
Oh, they're going to catfish everyone with his picture, aren't they? Like all the memorial pictures, they're all catfishing with pictures of him, like from obviously 50 years ago. It's like, look at him in his uniform, able to stand unaided. Look at him not subsisting on human flesh.
Look, let's not take that. Well, you can't libel the dead, but let's not make unwarranted accusations.
Well, you can't libel the dead, so do let's, is what I would say. But yeah, Jamie, I don't know if did you see this week, speaking of going back to Elon Musk for a moment, did you see that one of the Teslas like hit a curb and then set itself and the occupants on fire?
Yeah.
Then,
Jesus.
Yeah, it sort of opened a portal to hell.
That was why he was on my mind. Like, yeah, there was I think 2 people were in the car and it was driving itself, but no one was in the driver's seat, so I assumed they were fucking in the back. And it drove itself into a tree because it's shit, and then it caught on fire, and the fire department spent 5 hours trying to put the fire out, but every time they put it out, the battery just reignited, and eventually they had to ring Tesla and ask them what the fuck was up.
Oh God.
Which seems...
You imagine putting that down that tunnel now.
Yeah, it seems like an incredible idea, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
I remember saying they used something like 64,000 gallons of water.
You see that? I think the plan when everyone's in the like Hyperloop sewer tunnel thing is if one of them catches fire, they just have to get like everyone in Las Vegas to flush their toilet at the same time
and drown them.
The siren goes off and everyone has to rush to the toilet.
This is going to be like Flush for the Queen, but it's like Flush for the NHS or something. That's. But yeah, he was immediately, of course, on Twitter because one of his berserk fans was just like, "No, it wasn't the autopilot that killed him because like that couldn't because there's like 5 intermediary steps and obviously this was personal responsibility and not the fault of the magic car that obviously can't kill people." And Elon was just like, "Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah."
He's such a great idiot.
Was it like the story was like it reversed out of the driveway, drove 100 meters down the road, and ploughed into a pole?
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to invent a Rube Gold machine, and all it's capable of doing is killing people.
Killing people who buy Teslas.
Well, I mean...
Yeah, Elon Musk's like the world's worst Batman villain. Do you know what I mean?
Or the most successful.
Like the Riddler with a business degree.
If the Riddler went to business school.
But yeah, speaking of killing people, there's one more bit I wanted to talk about before we get to our main topic. It was in Declassified UK, which is like the Maverick, and they do a lot of defense work and stuff. And essentially, it turns out that for the last at least 40 years, Britain's been running a privy council, like a very senior advisory council for the Sultan/dictator of Oman, which is just like essentially it's a giant arms deal once again, because the UK takes about 5% of Oman's total GDP in arms buying, because Oman's like by GDP the biggest arms buyer in the world. So like there's an advisory council of like pretty much everybody. 7 current and former heads of MI6 and the UK military, a Foreign Office minister, a British oil executive, the ex-governor of the Bank of England, and one of the special advisors to Princes William and Harry. They're all on this like weird.
This is the fucking worst D&D group I've ever heard of.
And is the advice they give just invade thing?
I think it's the advice is by more, but the advice is by British, which I think is something we should all get behind.
It was beautiful because like I read that article, and apparently it was revealed in like Alan Duncan's diary that he'd been going on these junkets to Oman, and his diary was called "In the Thick of It," which is just a perfect jarring tonal change between like, oh yeah, this is a real Omni shambles. Anyway, how many anti-personnel mines do you want?
Yeah, it's so in 2012 the BAE of course did one of their bigger deals for $2.5 billion worth of fighter aircraft and like building and maintaining bases in Oman. And just so we're very clear, these weapons and some of the other kit we sold them, including tear gas and body armor, were used in the Arab Spring to shoot and gas protesters, of course, in the capital. And GCHQ apparently maintains 3 listening stations in the country. So, you know, that's just where we're at. You know, it's always comforting. Once again, another reason why Corbyn would never have been allowed to become PM, probably because he might have stopped a shit like that. And there was also another book a while ago by a former spook called Alec MacDonald, who in the book revealed that he had run Oman's internal security service, so like the dissident toenail extractors, and he'd run them from 1985 to 1993 on secondment from MI6. So essentially MI6 just runs the security state over there. He described like these parties that would happen as part of these little Privy Council meetings, which he said were like fairy tales. The New Year's Eve parties, according to Duncan, were, quote, not so much a buffet as a sumptuous feast with 2 lines of tables, each perhaps 15 yards long, groaning with massive platters of lobsters, prawn, chicken, etc. And that was just for starters. So, you know, a massively impoverished country sitting on an important oil lane where we support dictators, and literally, you know, the establishment of Britain just gets fat and happy off it. So...
Oh, it's one of our favourite stories, isn't it?
Well, fairy tale does seem right, because like fairies traditionally don't have any concept of the value of human life.
They steal children.
Yeah, just lounging around and dancing while people die.
It's actually it is MI6's highest honour. Like in the civil service, they have like OBEs and KBEs. In the civil service, they append your name with the butcher of.
See, I assume when he says it's like a fairy story, they eat a bunch of lobsters and then fuck a dragon or something.
When you leave MI6, you know, like American shows, like the guy retires and they give him like a fancy watch. Do you reckon they just give them like gold and toenail pullers with their names engraved on them?
They get to any ears they take. They get to
yes.
Yeah, they get to stick it on their necklace.
Yeah. You know how that thing that sometimes creepy people do where they bronze like the first shoes of kids? Maybe they just get like a personalized sculpture of like bronze toes.
I'm sorry, they do what?
Yeah, I've never heard of that. Like
we've bronzed all the shoes of that school you double tapped.
I mean,
for sale, children's shoes worn once.
I hear you're going into the private sector, so you get the gag gift, the car battery.
Yeah, but you can just throw that into the sea, though.
Anyway, speaking of throwing things in the sea, shall we talk about, because we had to get some Londoners in for this one. We thought we'd have the London race for the London mayor.
Yep. Let me put down my whelks.
I got my first bit of documentation through for it today. I got a little book. I haven't had a single thing from any of the parties, but I did get a book which reminded me again of the weird shape of London constituencies that are all gerrymandered to fuck.
I thought they were just reasonably okay, or is this like MP constituencies or like
there's
council?
One of the ones, the little assembly constituencies, and like one of the ones that really stands out is Havering and Redbridge, which is like a nice long, it's like a weird curve that does clip into some of the poorest parts, but also has a lot of the people who live on the outskirts of really big houses.
Seems normal.
Yeah.
Does it form an amusing shape though? That's the important question.
It's like kind of like a backwards C, which that
Use your imagination.
I've heard better.
But yeah, I mean, so what's it been like to live in the caliphate of Sadiq Khan for the last years? I'm surprised that neither of you guys got stabbed before the recording.
Yeah,
it'd be ironic if I did get stabbed.
Highly inconvenient for this podcast. I'll be honest. I wouldn't be impressed.
You don't ever know, because like the London Mayor thing came in what, 2000? It was 2000, wasn't it? It was a Blair
something
thing.
like that.
Yeah.
And like the first time, like I wasn't living in London then, but you know, you had all the stuff of like Blair just openly rigging the election to make sure Ken Livingstone didn't win, and then he won anyway as an independent.
Yeah.
And like it's one of those things that you live with, and I think if if you want to be a success as this kind of London mayor, you have to have a really strong brand or a strong personality. So like obviously Ken has that. Boris, he's still got a strong personality, perhaps emphasizing in the wrong directions, but like, you have Boris, obviously puts his personal stamp on everything he does, and it's really the only way of like getting things done or getting yourself noticed is that. And so like Sadiq Khan's been really weird having had those two in office, because he is unbelievably unremarkable.
Mm-hmm.
Like he would not stand out in a crowd. If anything, it is remarkable given this role that how
he is very wallpaper paste, isn't he? Like even if he's on telly, you're just like, oh, there's a guy.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like on a personal level, he seems like nice enough, but there is absolutely nothing to it. I could tell you maybe two things he's done, which is there was fare hoppers. So if you've got like an Oyster card, you can go from like bus to bus within I think an hour, and you will only get charged for one journey. And I think he extended the ultra low emission zone. That's really, really it.
And a lot of people are very, very angry about those low emissions.
I was just going to say, like, for a very bland man who's done very little, he does seem to wind up the right, like, an incredible amount for some reason.
Like, it's crazy. Like, people act like he's a combination of, like, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and, like, the leader of the Black Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it might be one of the like, and that isn't just YouTube commentators, although it's a lot of YouTube commentators and a lot of Twitter replies, but it's like extends down to most conservatives. Like most Tories will try and monster him in that way, and it might be one of the few like times in recent years that hasn't worked, simply because he's so obviously not that.
He's so bland, people can't really believe it.
Can anyone remember that painting that guy did with Sadiq Khan hanging Tommy Robinson?
What?
Yeah.
It's the other thing is about the weirdness about him as London mayor is that people getting mad about it, blaming him for things that he has absolutely no control over.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Blair instituted the London mayor position, he kind of slotted it in between central government, which has got all the money, but then foisted off all the responsibility to local councils, because we've still got local borough councils that are elected separately. You know, like they have all the responsibility, but also they don't have money. They're not allowed to raise any money of their own. And so you've got this position like sandwiched in the middle, and it ends up kind of, the London mayor is like, oh, he's a London special guy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's our special little guy.
He's our special little guy.
Oh my god!
James just dropped the picture of Tom that he was just talking
That's
about
amazing.
in the fucking. Oh my god! Yeah, I forgot about this one. I love the little tape over his mouth. The little girl with the little heart on her shirt, having her mouth covered by the police rather than just having.
No, it's in the top right. It's the crescent and star of Islam over.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
And the police are burning a Union Jack. Also, at Tower Bridge, which nearly all the adverts for different people are for London Mayor, they're always by Tower Bridge.
Yeah,
because they're like, we need to just so London. It's so London. I have never walked across that bridge. I have never gone anywhere near that bridge. I have lived here since I was 18, so a long time, and I have never gone anywhere. There's no need to go anywhere near that bridge, except if you're going to hang Tommy Robinson. Apparently,
they didn't give him any power over like in the old days. Like you would have had I think the GLC had power over like actual houses. Like they had power over schools and stuff like that. Like Sadiq Khan has none of that. He can advise on things, and like one of the big issues that everyone seems to mention is like low traffic neighborhoods.
Yeah, but even they, as far as I understood it, are like mostly in control of the local borough councils, right?
Yeah, so it's borough councils putting in a measure that they've thought up in order to meet the commitments that the mayor has set for them. Like the mayor sets out the London plan and says we want to reduce emissions, and then the councils have to do it.
But even the one round here started before him as well.
Yeah, it was very possibly the previous London plan that Boris Johnson put in that the councils then thought that was the idea that they wanted.
But so what's he running on this time? Like I didn't do any research on Steve Khan.
I had a look through his manifesto, and it's like 102 pages, mostly prose about. It's fine. Have you ever read a New Labour manifesto? Because you've read this,
yeah,
and it's perfect because that's what this role is. It's like he's halfway between a hedge fund manager and like a project manager.
Well, I've got the page open of my little book that I got sent, and he's calling for jobs, jobs, jobs. He's going to bang the drum for investment.
God.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing.
Does he literally say jobs, jobs, jobs?
Yes, it says jobs, jobs, jobs.
Oh, fuck's
Actually, there were a couple of what's the word? Not New Labour, current Labour, like little ticks in there that obviously he's put in the last year or so.
Mm.
So like he had in his introduction said, at its heart, London remains very much an English and a British city. So, it's that like, just nothing you could really call him on, but just that little edge of the English.
So rather than full on flag shagging, you just get a chubby every time you see like a £20 note.
Yeah, he mentions pearly kings and queens, which I haven't seen one of those since I was a very little child. I don't know what they think that happened.
I think they're endangered now. I think they're kept like museum fremen somewhere in East London.
They're Christian charity fundraisers. Like that's what they are, and they must all be in their 80s. I don't know if they recruit new ones. But yeah, like it's mostly kind of like the business as usual stuff. I mean, he talks about like a recovery board for COVID. You know, that's the jobs. We're going to bounce back better, blah, blah, blah. And he has
bounce back, better.
Yeah, the rest is just like global city, high streets, strong communities, digital age, get people on the internet, community policing, Green New Deal, mental health.
Oh my God. It's
just the same. It's just, I've read this before.
Yeah, hang on, he's also tough on crime. And the causes.
Oh, they're all tough on crime.
Is that fucking corporate social responsibility, Black Lives Matter,
yeah.
Ad infinitum.
Make everything greener and techier and more equal. But actually what will happen is things will get greyer, more unequal, and, you'll get
more viciously miserable.
The algorithm's sicked on.
Is he? I mean, does he have any plans for like renters or something? Because some of the others have like berserk plans for like fixing high rents in London. Like,
I mean, he did talk in the thing about, I've pioneered. It was like, I can't remember the wording. It was pioneering introducing rent controls, and it's like, what?
Yeah, because everybody else is attacking him for like, he's going to do rent controls and like come after the NHS nurses' pension that is also a housing estate or something. I don't.
Why is like? It always seems like you have the like Sadiq Khan's ilk. It's just a minor thing that doesn't amount to anything, and as we've said, like people just lose their fucking minds over, right wingers rather lose their fucking minds over it, and then what happens? Like, he's going to win. I think that's pretty much a fair complete at this point.
Oh yeah,
but he's we're going to do the pioneering of the whatever. We're going to make the houses and all that better. And what's going to happen is
I think you've cursed him. I think now that you've said he's guaranteed to win, it's going to be gammons and a landslide.
Yeah, fine. Like banter timeline, whatever. Let's go with it. But like, even if he does win, is it going to be anything like even like Berlin? Where they actually did put in fucking rent control. No, of course not.
If he does anything about if he does any kind of mansion tax or anything, Mylene Class will be after him for like upsetting her grandma or whatever the fuck. You've got to watch out for all those dear sweet little old ladies who've only got a state pension to live on and a 14-bedroom castle to live in.
Hey, look, that's called a small apartment here in Switzerland.
Look, her husband died very recently. There's no need to talk about it like that.
Wait, Prince Philip was a bigamist. No, I mean, one of the main reasons this guy is gonna win is because Sean Bailey, the Tory candidate, is just a rolling scheme of nothing. Like that guy, every time he opens his mouth, just gets worse and worse. I mean, that's not
the Tories
new.
cut funding, didn't they? Didn't they cut funding to him?
Yeah, they cut funding for his campaign.
Because they know that it's like. Also, Sadiq Khan is more useful to them because the mayor can't do shit, and then they can blame him for all the knifings.
There's sort of a theory out there that like Sean Bailey's campaign is like also not really focused on London. It's focused on the MP constituencies in like sort of a circle outside London because he's meant to drum up support there.
He's a fucking like college campus Facebook ad, but writ large, basically. Then you know, like the woke left. They're trying to drive out the true English people of London. Sadiq Khan is, and
so far as I could tell, he's not directly about the other candidates we'll discuss are much more about the woke left and the intolerant mobs who are silencing us. But he's just essentially a Tory prick. I mean, and has been for a long time. He was a council worker, I think, for a long time, a youth council worker.
He was a social worker, I think. Wasn't he?
Yeah. He was one of those social entrepreneurs that Cameron liked to promote.
Yeah, so in 2005...
Social entrepreneur. It just sounds like it means that he's literally sold off like everyone he's ever been friends with.
I think that's just like... It's just like the people trading in adrenochrome. Like, that's your local adrenochrome dealer. That's But yeah, already in 2005, he wrote a pamphlet about inner cities, charmingly called No Man's Land, where he wrote that good-looking girls, quote-unquote, did have a tendency to have been around. I'll leave you to draw your conclusions as to what he meant there. And
damn, there's too many hot women in London. What the fuck?
They're all going to the shops.
Well, I mean,
that's what he means. That's what he means when he said "been around," right?
Yeah, for sure. Because in 2010, he wrote an article in The Sun suggesting that teenage mothers push people who, quote unquote, do the right thing down the priority list for social housing. And then in 2008 told The Guardian that children are using abortion as a contraceptive. And, you know, he's just a very pleasant guy.
I mean, you can get the mark of someone just by them, you know, as soon as they say something like that, you are just at your core a horrendous piece of shit, right?
I mean, I would argue that if someone ever describes anyone as a social entrepreneur, you should know right away that they're some kind of fucking dickhead.
But yeah, this time around, he's promising to create almost 950,000 jobs in London over 5 years. But when you read his... begs
the question, really, doesn't it?
He has no power over that.
He says 924,000 jobs. And because it's 924, that makes you feel like it's... Yeah, because it's oddly
it could
specific.
very well be real.
It's like, there's definitely numbers
It's been costed out.
Is this going to be like the fucking nurse jobs that was in the 2019 manifesto, where it's like, there's going to be more of them because they won't have left?
Yes, yeah. It's, I mean, the only concrete hiring promise I could find was, would it surprise you to know, to hire 8,000 more cops and reopen police stations everywhere across London?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, that number, and he boasts of this in his manifesto, that this would give London more cops than New York City or Paris, two cities famously where you want to be around the cops.
Mm-hmm.
What was Sadiq Khan's like? Did he have much to do with cop shagging in his manifesto?
He did the usual thing of we're going to hire we've hired 1,000 more cops. Community policing, Bobby's on the beat, street face. You should know who your copper is.
Yeah.
I love the Overton window moving in this direction. It is good. I like to be able to choose between 1,000 and 8,000 more cops.
Well, don't worry, because Sean Bailey's cops are also local, neighbourhood, familiar, to you, unit.
Yeah, I remember you from when you had your fucking boot on my head last week. Cool.
Yeah.
I've noticed, because I live in in Walthamstow, there's nice bits and there's shitty bits everywhere. And in London, some of that is really stark. But the police hang around and talk to you more in the nice bit, and it is nothing more fucking unsettling. than when they come up to you and they say, "Hello, are you having a nice day?" And it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck do you want?
Yeah, I was incredibly drunk in Stratford-upon-Avon once, and I injured myself walking back to a campsite. And so, like, 2 o'clock in the morning, we ended up back in the town centre. And I was like, my legs were bleeding because I'd run into a barbed wire fence. And we were, like, hanging around by the public toilets. I'd gone in and, like, washed the blood off my legs. And we were talking to a couple of lads that were, like, hanging around. And they were play fighting, and a police car pulled up. And me and all my mates who were just there, like, camping, all just immediately took off down the street. And, like, the 2 lads and the cops were, like, shouting after, were like, "What's the matter? What's wrong?" And, like, we stopped and we went back, and the cops had just getting out the car, and the 2 lads had gone, "Oh, we're just play fighting," and the cops had just gone, like, "No," and just sort of, like, jokingly joined in. Whereas, like, you know what I mean? Where we're from,
That's
the cops
terrifying.
would have just fucking battered the shit out of you for, like,
That's it.
for just being on the street at night, you know what I mean? It's like...
That sounds that sounds more terrifying when they're like, "Oh, jokey."
Yeah,
I had one try to stroke my dog.
It was completely alien-like, because it's a nice area, isn't it? So the police just can afford to just, like, twat around and be nice, you know what I mean?
Always more likely to see them in the nice bits as well.
Did they think it was much ado about nothing?
The only thing that's like I think is going to be like good about maybe having these extra cops is that he's promising that there are going to have to be regular drug tests for all businesses with more than 250 staff, and I'm not sure the City of London is exempt from that.
Really?
Drug tests.
That's pure. That's that American to UK conservative pipeline.
Yeah,
you know, policies get floated over there and they come straight over here without really thinking about anything, just putting it in there.
It's like every time they do a test of the backs of toilets in central London, and they're all just like, "Yeah, there's a lot of coke here."
Yeah,
everything is literally.
I think like the water, the Thames is like 5% coke. They literally.
Well, that's what they do. They test the sewage water to see how much coke's been. It's the only way to do it properly because it's everyone.
You could just like imagine like half of Canary Wharf like sticking, straws in the Thames, just desperately trying to get off their face again before the cops come to scan them.
Lapping up the Thames water.
I mean, one way or another, you'll end up in hospital.
We were talking earlier about like full body scans, and that is one of the things that he wants to introduce. He wants to have in London Underground platforms at like the ticket barriers. He wants to have full body scanners to prevent knife crimes in the underground.
I'm just going to turn the fucking walkie-talkie building into a giant metal detector.
There's been a couple of times I've seen there's like stations with the metal detectors, and they take forever.
Yeah,
because everyone's in a rush, and it's like, okay, look, there's a couple of thousand people.
I'm just picturing they'll have that big thing from Total Recall. You know, when you walk through it and it just shows you skeleton.
Oh, that'd be excellent, actually. I'd love that.
Yeah,
with like the knife highlighted in red.
And one of the things he seems really obsessed
Simple
with...
solution, make a knife out of bone.
And one of the things he seems, speaking of the underground, one of the things he's really obsessed with is, and all the like the mad candidates, including this guy, is like they want to fix Transport for London by like just cutting it to the fucking bone. He claims that there is 10 billion worth of waste in Transport for London, quote unquote.
Because he thinks buses are a waste.
No, specifically the thing that he thinks...
I assume it's they're paying people and they could not do that.
Yes. There is a specific line, quote unquote, about the gold-plated pensions enjoyed by Transport for London. So that definitely...
Yeah, I like the concept of a gold-plated pension in the year of our Lord 2021 is frankly fucking insane. I mean, I'm pretty sure that anyone who is going to retire on a final salary pension did so in like 2012. And, like, you know, it's pure, ideology. The idea of, like, cutting waste. It's like, what do you term in as being waste? And almost inevitably, it is, whether it's the NHS, whether it's public transport, whether it's any other kind of public good, it's something that, unless you're a bloke unless you're a physical bus or, like, a physical MRI scanner, that's considered to be waste. Like, And
no, you see what you do is you pay one of your mates like $100,000 a year to fire everyone, like to fire like, you know, twice as many. Like you get them to fire $200,000 a year's worth of people, and then that's efficiency.
Mm.
Yeah.
Does he mention the like TFL's land? A lot of them are quite angry at the amount of land TFL has.
I can't remember. He does make a big point of it, but like it's really weird because he also, I mean, much like I guess Sadiq's manifesto, there's a big bit about like making London green and sustainable and air pollution and that kind of stuff. But like at the same time, the other big tempo of his program is like just to completely scrap all the low traffic zones and the congestion charges. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how are you making London green if you just let everybody fucking do a Jeremy Clarkson again?
Did you see that? He tweeted about, you know, I'm like get rid of all the congestion charges, and he took a picture. He had a picture taken of him driving around London, and it's like, I'm going to drive around London to prove my point. And he left his number plate in the picture. And someone looked him up and they saw that he was he was exempt. It's like, motherfucker, come on.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like, all of them. I mean, all the other candidates are fucking obsessed with the low traffic zones and the congestion charges. But like, it's just also, I mean, it's just copy paste from the Tories. They do want the same fucking thing as well. And tell you what, we'll turn this into a small guess. He was asked during an interview what he would do as mayor for London's 62,000 households that are homeless. So what do you think Sean Bailey's advice is for the homeless to get shelter?
Throw them into a big blender.
Almost. Any other takers?
Put them in houses.
Yeah. Specifically what he said, he suggested, well, why don't those 62 homeless households just save up for a deposit so they can buy one?
Oh.
Yep.
Oh. Just buy a house. Why haven't I thought of this before? I've not got a house. Buy a house.
Yeah.
Genius.
It's one weird trick.
I found this character profile on Sean Bailey where like a growing number of like Tory talking heads claimed that they were homeless at some point.
What
in their life? He said, "Oh yeah, I was homeless, but you know, it's the worked your way to the top kind of thing." And it's like, It's funny how all these politicians and people have gone through extended periods of homeless, and they're all working class, but when they get in there, there's absolutely nothing they can do for them.
Well, was he homeless in the sense that Ian Duncan Smith was homeless and like unemployed, and he had to like stay at his wife's parents'
castle,
massive
Is it where
house?
He was technically homeless while he was moving between his two houses?
Some fucking shit like that.
While he was driving between his two houses.
Yeah, or he was his Grace and Favour mansion didn't technically count as a home or something, some bullshit like that, yeah. But don't worry, I mean, in terms of homes, and then we'll stop talking about him because he's going to fucking lose and he's not that funny, whereas the others are really funny. He's also pledged he's going to build 100,000 homes, each costing 100,000 quid.
What, in London?
Yeah.
Or... No. I mean, no.
But the weird thing is, like, and I'm neither a
That's not the weird thing.
No. That's pretty weird already. But like, I'm not very good at maths, as anybody who knows me will attest. But 100,000 homes times 100,000 quid, and that's the sale value. So fuck knows what the build quality will be. But let's assume that's a 10 billion quid worth of cost, right? That's just the math. But he says, how are we going to fund that? He says, well, we're going to fund that by a 4 billion government fund.
All right. Sure,
right.
Why not? Fuck it.
Sure. Pump another 4 billion into the housing market. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, with 6 billion missing, like this, the math, like even on the face of it, doesn't come nearly close enough to being able to do that.
Doesn't he want to have corporate sponsorship on the tube as well?
Yeah,
that's a thing that the Tories are desperate for.
Yeah,
he replacing the fucking tube names with like replacing like Thames Water with Evian water.
Yeah. Or like you can have that fucking god-awful ArcelorMittal thing that was next to the Olympic Stadium, but in every tube station.
I like that helter-skelter. I love that they turned it into a helter-skelter. Well, that's the thing. Like at first it wasn't a slide, and then they just after a couple of years they just turned it into a helter-skelter.
I do like how we are not even 5 years away from the vitriol that like Diane Abbott got for misquoting or like basically like misreading a number or whatever for like how much a bunch of cops cost.
Yeah.
And here is Sean Bailey, like, you know, not like off the cuff. He's not been. He says this is like a manifesto. This has been written down.
Mm-hmm.
4 billion quid for a 10 billion quid thing that it would cost. And it's like, no, that's fine. Just, I mean, yeah. I know that the Tories play politics on fucking easy mode, but sometimes it's so egregious and just.
I assume the reason it's only going to cost like 4 billion is because they're going to make 60 grand profit on every house.
Probably, yeah. I mean, and I'll leave you with one last highlight of Sean Bailey, which is buried in near the end about London ethics and values. And what he says is when he's mayor, he's going to impose London City Hall sanctions on China until it stops its human rights violations. Okay. And the way he's going to do that is he's going to stop the twinning with Beijing, because apparently London and Beijing are twinned cities, and there's going to be no more of that until you stop mistreating the Uyghurs.
London's special guy.
Sean Bailey's going to just send a guy out with like one of those little chisels to chisel off. Like twinned with Beijing off of a bunch of road signs, and that's it.
Moscow, new best friend. I'm
sure Xi is shaking in his boots.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, shall we? Do you want to talk about the Lib Dems? I have no idea what those fuckers are about.
Yeah, so obviously, you know, our main priority here is to look at the Lib Dems because they have so much power. The future of the Lib Dems
they're winning
is very important to British. Their future is very important.
Is it the Lib Dem fight back? Does it begin in London?
Oh, it begins here, and it begins by. It begins with the original candidate in 2020 was Siobhan Benita, who's a former civil servant who had defected from. Well, she was a civil servant who had said like, "Oh, I'm Labour through and through." She defected to the Lib Dems because of Europe in 2016.
Oh, that was her. I remember.
She also said that she'd always be Labour in her heart, even after she'd joined the Lib Dems, which is, you know, a stellar endorsement for the Lib Dems.
Is she like a fucking Mike Gates, like long lost love or something?
But when the election was postponed from last year because of COVID, she said she couldn't continue campaigning because the role was unpaid. And they didn't give her any money.
Well, they got to give money to the EU Supergirl.
Yeah.
Those cakes don't pay for themselves.
What's she up to these days? Actually, no, don't tell me.
I think she's still in Europe. In Europe. She was lost somewhere. She got done in one of those hostels, like in the film.
Oh my God. We can but dream.
Rather than like questioning, hey, how come we can't afford to put up a candidate in London when it's, you know, postponed for a year? They started shortlisting for new candidates. They put up two new candidates. One of which was raw food chef and juice guru.
Oh, I love this already.
Peter Sidhu Rob.
Vote for the Juicero for Mayor of London.
And Louisa Porritt. Those are the two front runners. Geeta Sidhu Rob had to drop out because while she was contesting a general election in Blackburn in 1997 for the Tories, she was filmed saying, "Don't vote for a Jew. Jack Straw is a Jew."
Oh yeah, I remember.
That's her.
Remember her? Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh yes. That's one of my favourite characters that's I've become aware of as a result of this podcast. Oh my God. Literally going down the street yelling "Jack Straw is a Jew" on a megaphone?
It was trying to do that thing where they think that it's courting Muslim votes by saying that, you know, he waged war in Iraq for Israel or whatever. Whereas actually he waged war in Iraq for himself to blame himself.
This is what we like to call nuance.
Yeah. But I think, you know, it's like, what's more important here? Is it the fact that they couldn't afford to pay a candidate to keep campaigning for them? Or is it that all of their candidates seem to come from somewhere else? Seem to be far more comfortable with other parties, and they're like a clearinghouse. for the other parties. So yeah, you end up with Louisa Porritt, who's now the Lib Dem candidate. She's pretty standard. She worked in a comms department forever and ever and ever, including Global Counsel, which was the PR agency that Peter Mandelson set.
Yeah, but that's good. I mean, somebody's got to counsel the globe.
It's true. If by the globe you mean BP.
Well, I mean, they exist.
They are on the globe.
They are made of people,
and they are global. Oh God, they are global.
I mean, those are the two constituent parts of being global.
Her manifesto is you might recognise it. She's going to appoint She's going to appoint a task force to reinvent the high street by looking at hybrid use things. She references other Lib Dem councils that have combined council public services with coffee shops. That's
inspired.
Good, apparently.
The job centre at the back of a Costa.
Jamie, you can get another qualification alongside your global communications, and then get a coffee afterwards.
The usual stuff: support for small businesses, apprenticeship hubs. This was interesting: super fast broadband for tubes and high streets. Sounds like a good idea, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's free.
Do you know what? I would
free super fast broadband for tubes and high streets.
I would go so far as to say that that's such a good idea that we should expand on it.
Hold on there.
What?
Next, you'll be saying we should nationalise sausages.
Well, I mean, that's a given. That is part of the Podcasting is Praxis manifesto for Jamie to be elected Mayor of London.
Actually, why don't we just nationalise Richmond sausages, and then everyone else can choose their more fancy sausages, but you've always got a basic sausage choice.
That sounds good.
Vote the podcasting party. Sausages.
I certainly grab more attention grabbing than job. That's a fucking job. Sorry, Adam.
Sorry. They're going to trial universal basic income. They're going to fund free ticket giveaways to West End shows for young people from low-income families.
Oh, fuck.
After they've been out of college for 2 years from disadvantaged areas and...
I wouldn't necessarily say, on a low-key, it's like, yeah, whatever, fine. But haven't low-income families got it hard enough to turn their life around?
I'm fucking not having this. It's just this fucking Hallmark movie-ass fucking shit. This is... Fuck you. This is like, what we'll do is we'll give some poor kid from a disadvantaged background in, I don't know, Tower Hamlets or something. Like, he'll get a once-in-a-lifetime chance to see the 7th remake of fucking Kinky Boots or something, and that's gonna... Billy Elliot, their fucking...
Listen, there are so many people who have turned their lives around and founded a juice bar because they went and saw Cats.
If Cats is the cause behind that fucking cereal bar, then the entire West End needs to be burnt down.
I mean, look at George Galloway. He went to Cats and then he became one, so it's all fine. Homes, they said they would drive forward the affordable homes program. Ooh.
I don't know what that means. Essentially, it's the same problem that every politician has, which is, how are you going to deal with developers? They are the ones who have all the money. They expect to receive the money. Why aren't you giving them the money? And she said, there'll be no more desperate deals with developers, but they will work with leading development experts to recruit and run the Affordable Housing Organisation according to industry best standards. So that means they're going to get in bed with developers.
Yeah, but they're best. They're not bad standards. They're good standards, not the bad standards. What do we want?
Shit.
Good standards.
I mean, it's
more good property developers.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one. Whoever you vote for, it's going to be backhands to fucking property developers, like Labour councils, Tory councils, Lib Dem councils. It's all just Yeah,
it's the number one problem in British politics. Is there actually going to be any politician that is going to not do things this way?
Is there going to be any actual fucking politics?
Yeah, well, there's a power base in that property developers are super rich, super influential, and occupy every single area of house building. They are the ones that make housing expensive to build and charge a lot of money because they've got to recoup that profit. Are you going to stand up to them, or what are you going to do? And that's the thing.
The answer to all of them being, no, we're just going to
Well, I mean, it's just impossible to do anything that even vaguely, destabilizes the housing bubble, and because we've got to keep that fucking thing propped up. Otherwise, a lot of middle class people are going to be very upset.
Yeah.
Do you have more Lib Dem shit? Because if you want to be, if you're upset about many things, then there are other candidates for you out there.
I have a couple more things.
All right, cool.
She has a plan to rewild London, which involves greening every
Burn
roof.
it down.
Well, no, that's the thing. She's going to green every roof and create more parks. That's not rewilding, is it?
Literally not rewilding. That would be burning it down, which would be good.
Just release 100 warthogs into Hyde Park, and wolves released into St James's Park, and then as people are moving out from the monsters that now live there.
I saw that video on YouTube. You get the beavers in to change the river, and then the wolves come back, then the deer come back. She's gonna
a giant beaver dam in the Thames would be amazing.
It would be pretty great.
Actually,
that's going to legalize weed.
Actually, that's going to be a problem because Sean Bailey also promised that he would increase traffic on the Thames, and he wants to do waste removal and get waste barges to trundle down the Thames instead of garbage trucks.
Who doesn't love to cross the Thames and just walk over a massive barge full of human shit?
Usual stuff on community policing. Double the number of police officers for each ward. At least 4 PCs in every neighbourhood by 2024.
A cop of every home in every home.
I mean, yeah, there's hundreds of wards. That's a lot.
Yeah. Is that? Do you reckon that'd be more or less than Sean Bailey's 8,000, and I think also the UKIP's guy's 8,000? But there is a guy who's going to recruit even more cops. We'll get to that in a little bit.
The last two, legalize weed, not actually legalize weed. The actual wording is Liberal Democrats. Remember, whenever they say that, they mean, you mean the Parliamentary Party. Liberal Democrats will encourage the Metropolitan Police to use the discretion it has available to effectively decriminalise the possession of cannabis.
Oh my god! So, the party that is famous for being milk toast non-politicians is not even capable of.
Look. Admittedly, the London Mayor can't change that law. They can't even instruct the Met Police to relax their stance on it. Why even include it?
We're gonna bust Joe Swinson in, or fucking Willie Rennie, or whatever. Bust him in to beg Cressida Dick to not beat up black people carrying any cannabis anymore. Yeah, that's gonna go fucking swimmingly.
Well, I mean, what we have seen in the last couple of weeks for sure is if you ask the London Met very nicely to do things, then they tend to nicely respond to that.
This manifesto is the most radical left-wing manifesto I've seen, because she also talks about ending stop and search and stopping facial recognition tech. But don't worry, it goes further. She's going to rename one of the wards in Brixton the Brixton Windrush Ward.
Wow.
For fuck's sake.
That's worth it.
None of the other candidates have promised to change the name of the ward to the Jobs ward. So that's
we thank the Windrush generation for their sacrifice in enabling us to rename this high street.
We have renamed the skate park next to Brixton Academy the Windrush Skate Park.
The Nelson Mandela Affordable Home Park.
To be honest, it's the Lib Dems I remember from pre-2010.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's what this is. And that's all it is.
Yeah.
With only a quarter of the seats? It's going great.
I mean, is there much or any kind of a difference between this manifesto and the Labour one? Because it sounds pretty fucking the same.
There's more liberalism in it.
Oh, good.
With capital L liberalism for whatever that's.
Did you hear? She's going to put grass on roofs.
Shall we talk about something somewhat slightly more illiberal? Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, classically liberal.
Yeah, I think all of us believe that, like Lawrence Fox and the Reclaim Party, that Sadiq Khan makes us ashamed to be British, as he said in his opening speech as a candidate. He is a fucking reactionary prick, as we know. And his manifesto and commitments, if he were to become mayor, which he won't because he's currently polling at 1%, kind of reflects that.
Which is a lot less than the fucking YouTube guy, which is hilarious.
Did Lawrence Fox say that?
Tied with some guy with a bin on his
Yeah.
Did Lawrence Fox say that at the time when he was rolling a cigarette on the top of the bus and then shouted at a random Asian guy, "Hey, Sadiq"?
Yes.
Whoa, he was rolling a cigarette. I didn't realise we had a badass running for there. Smoking in the open air.
Yeah.
It does a kickflip off the bus.
Without a mask on, because that's
was
the
it
other
a
thing.
normal cigarette or was it the devil's lettuce?
Oh shit!
It was organic.
Video.
It was organic, homegrown tobacco from one of London's green rooftops.
Tea leaves and banana peel, probably.
Can I just mention something on Count Binface? Like, I didn't really look into him, but like, his manifesto commitments were like, yeah, it's the Monster Revenue Party, it's fine, you get it. £1 croissants, reversing the tube escalators every day. But I did think it was really funny that he also, one of his manifesto promises was to finish Crossrail.
Okay.
I don't usually laugh at those things. I don't find them that funny, but that was really funny.
Well, I mean, we on this podcast desperately want Crossrail to be extended all the way down the Thames so it can link up to a certain theme park that we're upset.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Potato Land in Ireland.
The London Resort, but that's a very different episode. Go back and listen to that when you have time.
Episode 54.
Yeah, the Woods Part 2, whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah. No, that was the one in Bristol, in Liverpool.
Oh, there's so many theme
Blackpool,
parks.
Anyway, no. So Lawrence Fox wants to introduce a New York City-style approach to crime, which is, of course, the completely discredited broken windows theory of policing, which has just led to endless stop and search.
Which to my mind is they smash your windows and then they beat your head in. Like, as far as I understand it.
Yeah.
Did they already do that?
Imagine being such a dipshit that you steal ideas from Rudy Giuliani.
Does he just want the Met to speak with a New York accent?
Well, he wants something more.
They're
than
really
that.
pretty shitty.
I mean, these fucking freaks love, like, cosplaying as Americans. They're, you know, like, I don't know what the fucking American equivalent of a weeaboo is, but, like, that's what he is.
It's what the London Mayor petition is. It's cosplaying as, like, the New York Mayor. That's why Blair introduced it. He liked the look of it and didn't give it half the powers that the New York Mayor has. So
yeah. But he has some other plans for the Met because which can essentially be summarized in the following line from the actual manifesto: "Police will police streets and not tweets."
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I hate this fucking prick more than most people can conceive. Do you know what I mean? I wish he would just fuck off. He's just so tedious.
He's the only one in my little book that's got his little autograph. All of them have just got their thing, but his one ends with his little autograph.
It does, yeah.
That's going to be.
I was going to say that must be worth literally pennies on eBay.
I wonder how much Bitcoin you could get for that.
I was watching. There was a TV show called White Lines. It was on Sky, and I was quite enjoying it until I realised that one of the characters in it was him.
Oh Christ! Yeah,
yeah. He plays like this hippie ex-rave burnout guy.
He also wants to end the Met's obsession with diversity, which I'm
oh yeah,
crushing diversity.
Famously fucking obsessed with that, like, aren't they?
I just want to come back to Adam's point, like a rave burnout. Like, yeah, it does not surprise me that this man cannot, like, is just completely anhedonic rather. Like, he's just completely burnt out every single serotonin receptor in his brain, and everything in his life is just a grey mush.
Well, because he kind of he cosplays as a man who can have pleasure. He's always doing the pub thing of like, oh, beers, oh, rollies, and like, he doesn't look like he gains any pleasure from it.
No, he's very dead inside. Speaking of the Met, he also wants the Met to become a police force again, not a police service. I will roll back the gangsters, drug barons, pimps, and organized criminals that target and thrive in struggling communities, decay in deprivation. So those Sharia no-go zones that are everywhere in London, no more of them.
Oh, is he going to get rid of them? He's got my vote.
Yeah. Well, and the way, like, you would think that might need a lot more police officers to get rid of all the ISIS boroughs, essentially. And the way he's going to do that is he's going to cut 1/3 of all London administration, so all the stuff's going to be gone. For every city hall administrator removed, he wants to add 10 police apprenticeships.
This is like if my dad ran for mayor or something. Do you know what I mean? Just like a fundamental, like just an absolutely hardline refusal to understand anything about the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to put the world to rights. It's like, do you think you might want to like look into how it works? No, pretty sure I know everything already.
And also something that even if you didn't specifically know how it works are completely contradictory. Like these areas are Sharia no-go zones at the same time as they're drug-ridden hellholes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's gonna get rid of the plague of hobgoblins that like fucking, you know what I mean, steal from the markets every week or something probably. No more dragon flyovers inside the M25. Yeah. Just a stop to it, a blanket ban on any kind of like fantasy horse shit happening anywhere within London.
He's going to finally get to the bottom of why the iron ore from Nashkel is no good anymore.
I mean, you put it like that, Jamie. I would absolutely vote for Lord Farquaad.
And we're going to get the civic pride back as well because, of course, he's invested in the statue culture war. So he literally wants to add hundreds. That's the word in the manifesto.
Didn't the cover of his manifesto had the Churchill statue wearing a gag?
Yes, it does. Yes.
Churchill statue wearing a ball gag. Very out there, but you've got to respect it.
You're not
hundreds of statues. Like who?
No, but specifically, he wants to add hundreds of military plaques and statues of people who won the Victoria Cross.
Oh, fuck off!
So that's
10 years. 10 years in prison if you. 10 years in prison if you piss on a statue. You get to put someone else in prison for 10 years if you come on it, though.
That's the way for the London mayor to legalise like the fucking weed, though, isn't it? Is you just ring the police every day and tell them that someone shifty's looking at the Churchill statue, and then the entire Met will be deployed around that, and you can smoke all the weed you want.
Yeah, but that's why they get all these police apprentices in. If they put Churchill statues everywhere, they're going to need like hundreds of guards around every statue. And if you put one on every street corner that they can see each other, then London's going to be safe.
Put a Churchill statue on a barge and just set it adrift. And then they all, like, you know what I mean? Like the Pied Piper, all the cops just run out of London and chase it down the Thames.
Thousands of Tesla self-driving cars smashing into all the statues, littering every street corner, all on fire, being put out by police. That's how you occupy.
Well, I mean, he's also got a great plan for reviving both London.
No, he doesn't.
I've got to be honest with you, Rob. I feel like we've tapped this vein as much as it like it's. I think we kind of get this guy's fucking gist. You know?
No. There's one more thing. He's reinvented the Laffer curve, but for cities. Because what he wants to do is, of course, he wants to get rid of masks, but to get London moving again, he's offering 6 months of free public transport because of lockdown, which would cost roughly 500 million, probably bankrupt, transferred to London. But it's fine because, according to him, London would earn that back and more because of increased commerce. You know, if you lower taxes, secretly your revenues rise. That's the way this works.
Well, the thing is, that's actually a really good policy. Do it forever, but, you know, like, actually...
Think about it.
You know, with an actual taxation increase, that would be a very good policy. But because you have to be fucking insane to... you know, start the fucking statue fucker society for mayor. That is just inconceivable.
Yep.
So we only have to be.
I love the way people think words like trade and commerce is just one number that goes up or down. It's not like a flow or a relation or anything like that. It's just, oh no, the number went up, so therefore everyone's
right. And the London mayor's got a big knob on his desk that he could push up or down to make the commerce go.
So he won't do it. He keeps on turning the knife crime one, and he won't turn the commerce one.
Oh shit!
Most of these fuckers have a less complex understanding of London than they do of fucking SimCity 4.
Mm.
Yeah. You'll regret this.
But yeah.
No, I won't, you fucker. To prison with you.
But yeah, as a final thing, he and Sean Bailey also want one thing exactly the same. Post-lockdown, which is either immediate or very quick. If you're Sean Bailey, they want to have a Festival of London, a one-day full-on event that looks like the Edinburgh Fringe, but is a Festival of London for festival. So that's Lawrence Fox for you. Violent police repression.
London's special guy.
Anyway, shall we move on to Brian Rose, who I know...
Oh, okay. Okay, do you guys know much about Brian Rose?
I have
Never heard
no
of the
idea.
fucking
So
prick.
Okay, virtually no one has. Unless you spend a lot of time on YouTube. Recently, you've been getting a lot of adverts, especially if you live in London, you get bombarded
His
with
adverts are fucking everywhere.
Okay, Brian Rose used to have a YouTube show called London Live with a friend of his that used to be his Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor that was quite into ayahuasca and esoteric shit, and they both bonded over long walks around central London and a mutual love of Joe Rogan. So they started a really shit version of that with one guy who's kind of weird and Brian Rose, who is immediately off-putting. He
is the first guy like disarmingly weird?
He's just like every other MMA guy who's super into ayahuasca. But Brian Rose, he retired from being a stockbroker when he was 41. He came from a bit of money, and he's Californian. He's very American.
He does look... his head is extremely American.
Yeah, and all of the pictures are him with like an overcast sky of London behind him. He looks like a Bond villain. Actually, he looks more like an old Batman villain.
That's
oh my god.
The pocket square,
Holy
the giant
shit.
red pocket square with like the vicious pinstripe suit. This is very 1970s Bond villain.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He looks like a quest giver from Grand Theft Auto.
My man be looking like a fucking 16-lane M-Road, right?
So he had this. He retired from being a stockbroker and then started doing this London Live thing, and then decided that he wanted to make money off London Live. Ditched his partner and started selling business lessons. And they're like thousands and thousands of pounds. They're a massive rip-off. People hate him. And then he...
so he's a Scientologist, then?
Then he decided that, I could make some money off the free speech grift. So he did a live stream interview with David Icke, where David Icke immediately started talking about how this is a plandemic, it's a 5G mass cull, and all this kind of stuff. YouTube take it off, and then he takes the video down, and he starts a crowdfunder for his free speech platform. He makes an awful lot of money on it, which becomes a website.
Wait. What was the point of this? Apart from that free speech is good.
He's going to be able to put ideas out there that YouTube won't allow. He's against the big tech companies. He was going to sue YouTube and Google with £25,000 and win.
I'm just gonna fucking rock up to the headquarters and throw a brick through their window, and then I'm gonna speed off in my fucking oldie timey station wagon.
But so he got all this money, and then he's got on his website, the Free Speechy website. He has some of the videos that can't be put on YouTube, but where he hosts them is someone found out he hosts them on Dailymotion and just embeds them on his website. So he's not even paying for anything. I don't know where the money goes.
He just moved to a different platform.
To buy more pocket squares, one assumes, because that's just glorious.
But that all spends all the money trying to have Dick Tracy killed.
But all of that fell apart at the start of last year, and now he immediately pivoted to I'm running for London Mayor. He has a massive battle bus, bought a load of billboards, and is driving around every borough asking people questions. He got stopped by the police a couple of times because he was, in the middle of the pandemic, was aggressively shaking people's hands and not wearing a mask.
This is fucking king.
He must have dropped so much money, by the way, because he has he projects that fit. He's like a business spirituality guy, meditation and all that kind of stuff.
God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's overestimated the amount of money he needs to run for London Mayor of wearing pinstripe suits and sitting on plush velour seats at the back of a coach.
There's some other weird... Oh, that's it. One of the weird things about him is his former business partner, he gave him a book when they first started working together that was called, I've got it written down here.
It's just a threat.
Was it?
It's called Him,
Not far off.
written by Iceberg Slim, and it's like this, and it's this like autobiography written by a pimp.
Oh, yeah.
One of
Is
the
that a street
fundamental
name?
things is a pimp has got to know his whores, but not let them know him. He's got to be God all the way. It's all about not really ever letting anyone know who you are and using people and manipulating them. And this is his favourite book. His favourite fictional characters are like Gordon Gekko, and he talks about living American Psycho like it's real and reading it multiple times a year.
Oh my god, this is somehow worse than like Sajid Javid reading Ayn Rand every year.
Yeah,
He knows that like Patrick Bateman was delusional, right?
yeah. No, he doesn't. I don't think he does.
Did-
But also, to give you an idea of how much all of this has fallen apart for him, he has millions of like subscribers on his YouTube channel, but he very rarely gets more than 3,000 views now. That's how much he fucked it last year, and then decided at his lowest ebb to run for mayor, and has managed to grift quite a lot of money. This is just a grift, 100%.
Yeah, there are quite a number of grifts, because like, obviously Lawrence Fox is also a fucking grift. I mean, clearly.
Yeah. He's going to, but as London Mayor, he's going to abolish the congestion charge and launch a 31-day festival.
Again, another fucking festival.
Yeah.
Another special event.
What is it with these fucking people and festivals? And
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it just ties into this anhedonia. These people cannot experience joy. They just know people go to festivals and generally have a good
They
time.
just want to be invited to a party.
Where no one can refuse them.
Yeah.
Fucking Judge Dredd of festivals.
He wants 250
I'm paying for
community
this. Eat those Pringles.
250 community centres paid for by big business.
Of course.
Well, all right.
10,000 new community police. So
Ah,
loads more hobbies.
10,000.
Yeah.
I don't know where he's going to find it.
Record.
But then his house building one is particularly good. Build 50,000 affordable homes by Christmas. And then 100,000 every year after that. He's going to use, he says, modern modular housing technology. His little ad video has like the modules, like shipping containers.
Shipping containers, yeah.
Shipping containers, yeah.
Shipping containers. I'm thinking shipping containers in the crash zone around London City Airport. That's where I think he's playing.
Yeah. Fucking like, my god, like the whole that whole idea of like, oh yeah, just turn a shipping container into like housing. Never like shipping containers are very expensive at the moment because there's like a global shortage of them. And never mind the fact that there's oh my god, I don't even know why I'm giving him the fucking time of day, if I'm honest. Thinking about it for more than 10 seconds is more than he's fucking worth.
This is like such a 2021 Christmas Carol, where it's just like, finally, little Timmy, we have a home, as they like crawl into a shipping container while an airplane just smacks into it. Like,
is that the opening scene of what's the horrible film with all the computer game characters in?
Oh, Ready Player One.
When they're all living in the shipping containers. It's like looking and going,
and they're all stacked on top of each other.
It's like, we could have that. That would be lovely. But one of the best. He looks so uncomfortable in a suit because for years all he used to wear is those. I imagine we've all worn them at some point. Those camo cargo shorts and like and t-shirts. That's what he wore for years, and then he met Dan Pena.
He had like a soul patch.
He did have a soul patch as well. Yeah,
he did have a soul patch. Yeah,
and
then he met Dan Pena, the millionaire
MMA
grifter
guy
from Jacksonville, and then decided to just wear suits. But yeah, that's him. He's delightful. I love him.
Well, he's the best candidate so far.
So far, yeah. I mean, there is another spiritualist running, by the way, by the actual name, and I can't just. It's too apt. His name is actually Peter Gammons.
So when I first heard this guy's name, I thought it was like a bit because I was like, no way,
Gammons, literally Gammons for London.
Yeah,
like you can't write that. If you wrote that for a satire, it would be too on the nose.
Yeah.
He's running on behalf of UKIP, who is still around because they haven't split and gone bankrupt enough. My favourite bit, by the way, I was doing some research for this guy, and I went to the UKIP website, and they have a novel way of funding the party. They have now their own lottery scheme, where you can buy tickets, and every month they raffle off solid gold sovereigns.
Oh, see, that's disappointing.
So
they should go for a meat raffle. They should go for a classic meat raffle. They should be more authentic.
Authenticrat.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like on the top
Pound
of
of beef
UKIP, I love the fact that fucking Farage, and all he does now is like flog gold and like do cameos, which liberals
His
just
investment
cannot.
advice.
Yeah, exactly. And like liberals just can't help but throw their fucking money at him, getting say, "Oh, Brexit's bad, actually," and it's like, yeah, you really owned him there.
So he, Peter Gammons, is also a spiritualist.
Fucking UKIP.
This is from his own private website. It is historically documented.
A website for money.
It is historically documented that he has spoken to some of the largest events in history, including for the past 23 years at the main El Shaddai Catholic rallies in the Philippines. So he is a televangelist.
Fantastic. Right. He's got the look in this little booklet of mine. He's like, it's really badly designed because he's wearing like a black turtleneck and it's on a black background, so it just looks like a floating head.
I mean, he
when you said spiritualist and said he'd spoken to the largest gatherings in the world, I thought he was going to say, well, most of the people there were dead.
No, they were all alive. I mean, there's photos of him at this rally, which are either very bad photoshops or real, and I cannot for the life of me work out what it is. But he's also a best-selling author of many books, he claims on his website, although I tried desperately to find these books, and I couldn't find them. So, I'm not sure.
They're bestsellers purely because they're in high demand, I assume. I assume that's how it works.
He's much like Brian Rose. He's also a success opportunity speaker, and he has done conferences which themes including the secrets of success, health, and happiness, how to create your own dream world, and his 15-part School of Success.
How to create your dream world.
Go to bed. Sleep. That is how you create your... So he's also got a series of testimonials about how great he is, which is all like these televangelists and like American, mega church rip-off artists, including Oral Roberts, who's like one of the grandfathers of the American like televangelical conservative.
I'm sorry, his name's what?
Oral Roberts. Yeah.
Okay. This motherfucker called Oral Roberts. Okay.
I mean, he's a vicious. That man is viciously unpleasant. Like, don't mistake the name. Like, he's one of those guys. He was Moral Majority, like Jerry Falwell. You know.
Yeah, he was around years ago, wasn't he? The first incarnation of the Moral Majority.
Exactly. In his launch video, which is amazing, because it's clearly taped in his apartment and he can't do single takes, so it cuts like every 20 seconds because he's had to do a new take.
Because he says slurs.
It opens with, and I think it's like the second or third line, and if you think back to the magic of the Cocteau days, he literally also says, it's in your hands, which I just thought was an amazing callback. Oh. And then a little bit later on, he literally includes the following remarks. Many people see UKIP as the far right, which we are not.
Oh, well, I'm glad that's been sorted out.
In his manifesto, I'll keep it brief, Jamie, because I know you love Elon Musk so much. He has the following plan for London. He wants to convert the existing underground network in London, Cold War tunnels, post office tunnels, BT tunnels, into walkways, safe cycle lanes, and the first pod underground transport system.
Fantastic. Make the tube smaller.
Yeah, personalized tubes.
Great.
I mean, apart from that, it's pretty similar to Sean Bailey and to what's his face, all the others. He hates lockdown. He believes that the solution to ethnic division is not supporting anarchistic organizations who wish to decimate our police.
I thought you were going to say the police.
Our police, not the police.
He's abolishing the police, is it?
I do love that contradiction in terms of, though, like anarchistic organisations.
He also wants
don't want to get sued.
Yeah. He wants to also recruit 8,000 more police, because who doesn't want more police? And he does have a novel solution for the homeless, which he wants to reopen World War II era air raid shelters as temporary housing.
Great.
Tube stations, then.
Yes.
There weren't that many separate air raid shelters. There were tube stations and things in people's gardens.
Yeah, but apparently it's air raid shelters that's going to solve this. And apart from
could you imagine if, like, this fucking guy just turns up to your house share in London somewhere someday, and like with a fucking JCB, and it's like, oh, we're here to dig up your garden, mate.
And his way of funding all this largesse and the air raid shelters and the 8,000 more police was, I thought, was very good. He wants to introduce the London Lottery to fund the city.
Or lorries.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And, of course, he's done a whole series of videos about Sadiq Khan's evil war on motorists, the low pollution zone.
Oh, every single one of these freaks has such a bee in their bonnet about these low traffic zones. It's incredible.
Well, they're just all Jeremy Clarkson.
Cars is very important to the right-wing imaginary.
Yeah.
Cars are incredibly important to those people.
But yeah, his name is Peter Gammons, and he is a American gospel success preacher, and he also will not be the next mayor of London because he is currently...
He also had a one-hit wonder.
What? Sorry, I didn't even find...
I'm pretty certain, yeah, he had a one-hit wonder of a song about going to the beach, and the video is him with long hair.
I think that was Nicki Minaj, wasn't it?
You could confuse the two.
yeah, easy mistake to make.
But he, to be sure, will also not be mayor of London because he is comfortably polling along with Lawrence Fox and Lord Binface at a mighty 1% of the vote.
Oh, that was the thing I forgot to say about Brian Rose. Right at the start of all of it, he was claiming that there was odds on to win, and he's the only person that could beat Sadiq Khan because the bookies had him at 3-1 because he put a load of money on himself to fuck me off.
That is so smart. I love it.
That's amazing.
And then he started demanding that Sadiq Khan debate him because, the bookies say I'm going to win.
Are UKIP going to change their logo to just a pair of dice in an alley? All these gambling schemes. They get their money through gambling. They're going to solve, fiscal problems with gambling.
But yeah, I mean, those are essentially the main lot I think we wanted to talk about. There's a bunch of other complete has-beens and know-nothings. Anybody in particular you guys want to mention?
There's Steve Kelleher for the SDP, the party that is surprisingly still around. He looks like a contact juggler.
So that's
a contact juggler.
There's a whole thing with...
Sorry, a content juggler?
Contact juggler. Those people who hold like a ball, they juggle, but it's like they hold a crystal ball and they move it around their hands in a weird way.
Oh, that!
Yeah.
Oh, what, like
well,
David Bowie in fucking Labyrinth?
Yeah, I'm saying he looks like a sex offender, basically, with more steps.
Legally speaking, this podcast cannot say whether he is or is not a sex offender, but we are going to assume that he is not for legal reasons.
But he definitely contact juggled.
The weird thing is, it's not really pertinent to London Mayor conversation, but the SDP, and it is the original branding of the SDP, is now like a traditionalist party.
Well, there's many of those.
They're supposedly left wing, but economically left wing, socially right wing.
Oh,
proper kind of verging, a hair's breadth from Blood and Honor stuff.
Fantastic.
Seriously.
The only other one that I saw was the Rejoin EU party, which is getting money from Volt, the pan-European party, and mentions more about the politically homeless than the actual homeless.
Oh my god, that's sublime.
Yeah.
Is Rejoining Europe something that's under the Mayor of London's remit?
There was
he says
something...
that he'll just be a powerful voice for rejoining.
He
used to work in financial services.
Powerful voice. He's just going to stand on London Bridge and just belt out short you.
He'll just be our special guy for joining Europe again.
There was something in the Lib Dem manifesto about providing London passports to EU citizens.
Fuck's sake.
I love to have turning the London into an actual city-state. It's my manifesto.
Yeah.
Oh, there was someone in who had the idea. There was another one who had the idea for London passports. Who wanted to give every London person ID so they could occasionally get to have free travel on the tube.
Okay, well, next time I go to France, I will just show my Euro Disney passport, and they'll let me in for sure. Do we very quickly want to talk about Roger Hallam and Burning Pink? Adam, I know you had thoughts about...
Yeah. So Valerie Brown is the Burning Pink candidate for mayor.
It's a cool logo. It looks like a good tattoo that you'd see on a 20-year-old.
Yeah, Burning Pink, Beyond Politics. It's,
fuck me.
But like their whole thing is the same as their kind of larger manifesto, which is just citizens' assemblies. I've got a real bee in my bonnet about citizens' assemblies because, like, the idea is that you hand over all decision making to randomly selected assemblies of people who will then make legally binding decisions. And like their idea is these assemblies would automatically like reduce carbon emissions and do like green policies. It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
There's an awfully large asterisk next to that. I feel
it's just this fucking. Oh,
shall I read I read a quick line from their manifesto?
Yeah.
This is national because they don't really have one for London because it's extremely dumb. Our aim: to bring down the government or to win the elections, brackets, whichever happens. Brackets,
that's actually my website.
This is literally followed by brackets, whichever happens first. And to replace the government with citizen assemblies can address the climate and ecological crisis, make sure we look after each other properly, and set directions for everything else. Period. Done.
It's what I really hate about it is it's this hand waving gesture. It's like, oh, don't worry, when we get in, we won't actually have to do anything. It will just happen.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, don't worry, it's democratic. Like when you're like, I know like socialism, workplace democracy, all that is all good, but there's a different context for like workplace democracy. You're voting
mutual interest.
For the good of, there's mutual interests. Even when you vote like in FTPT, first past the post, you vote in a representative. There's supposedly like a link. There's some kind of accountability. This is just random people. You're just muddying the connection between these like representatives and the people they're supposed to represent. There's no like backstop against bad decisions. There's no like accountability for it. It's just like, oh yeah, we got together and we decided to just pump more carbon.
Well, sort of, because like if you read the manifesto quite closely and like the organizational structure, they do say that, like, in the Burning Pink party, because they want to organize their own party along these same lines by essentially handing party power over to, like, a bunch of randos every 6 months or 9 months or something like that, and then they would make decisions.
Every 20 minutes you have to get up and swap chairs with the person next to you, and eventually you end up in the halls of power.
Yeah, but there's a big but at the end of this, because it does say that, like, those decisions will be vetted and then, like, implemented or whatever by the National Executive Committee, which will be 9 people, which mysteriously enough all the founders are on. So, you know...
Wow.
What could go wrong?
So why do it? Like, why do it? Why insert this other thing in there? It's not even real participation. My goodness.
I love to, like, essentially create a random policy generator that I just go, like that one, don't like that one. You know, this one, burn children, burn some children. That's an improvement. We'll go with that one instead.
But they do have an idea for the police, and I'll read again from the National Manifesto.
6,000 more police.
No, it's different. Our leaflets say to the police, stop being a prat, stop arresting us, and go and arrest that fucker, the Prime Minister. Because they do swears in the manifesto.
Oh yeah, that's what police always do.
Yeah, that'll fucking, that's proper something.
Sort of
strongly worded pamphlet.
Yeah.
Per my last email.
Because they do swears. They do swears because they're free and wild and anarchist and not really. But they're like, it's the most bird-brained vibe party I think I've ever come across. It's... The whole manifesto is just like, we want good vibes, not bad vibes. And the good vibes, as embodied by random citizens, will sort us out.
They have to be an op. I'm sorry. Like, no way.
They also note, I think, somewhere that, like,
opinion, satire, opinion.
They also note somewhere, it's like, we started Extinction Rebellion, which went to, like, 100,000 people, and we can do it again.
Okay.
All right.
It worked out great last time, didn't it?
So Piers Corbyn is also running on a no mask platform, and of course all the London hacks are saying, "Oh, look, it's Corbyn."
His website had an awful lot of words in block capitals.
I like had the thing down, and it's like, you know, end lockdowns, no vaccine passports, defend council housing. Okay, fine, but you can't really reading it out. You can't get the strength, the sheer power of the amount of times he alternates caps lock cap locks and lowercase lettering. He has got a real flair for word art.
Oh, that would be... Oh, that's great.
He could probably go work for the Labour design team then. Yeah, so, none of us can vote. So which of these fine candidates will have the official pod backing of We Don't Talk About the Weather?
I genuinely don't know if I can be asked to vote.
No, I'm not voting. No, I'm sorry. So here's the thing, right? I know Sadiq Khan is going to win. And I don't want Sean Bailey to win, but I don't feel like there's any requisite mechanism for being able to punish people you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's a real downfall of our democratic system. I want Sadiq
none of
Khan,
these people to win.
because there is no one else. I'm deadly serious. Like, I need to look at the London Assembly stuff. I might vote for that because there might be, a left-wing party there that I could vote for. But there is no. Everyone we've read out here has been liberal or right-wing, and that was the whole plan, to get elections back to that. I've never had anyone I can vote for, never had anyone I can comfortably put on the ballot. And given the fact that there's no way that I can engineer it so that Sadiq Khan scrapes in by the skin of his teeth, I don't see the reason to go out and support that.
And even if you could engineer that, it would still be considered like a resounding endorsement of Keir Starmer's politics. And it's just okay, great.
Which is why that's the other thing as well that I forgot to say about Brian Rose, and why actually he will be getting my vote, is he is an avid breakdancer and has posted numerous breakdancing videos on his YouTube. Seriously.
Yeah.
They're amazing. So I will be voting for them. And they're always #BBoy, so I will be voting for him. No, I won't be voting for Brian Rose. I will probably not be voting for anyone. I might vote for someone on the left on the
We haven't talked about
assembly.
the Greens, but that's Sean Berry, and I think she's also pretty shit, so,
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about the Greens because there's no point. Fuck that.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that.
Who are you going to give? You're not going to reward anybody on this list.
No.
Fuck it.
No.
There's the Animal Welfare Party, who are going to expand biodiversity.
Okay.
And end speciesism.
Isn't the candidate for that party? I'm not 100% sure on this. Last I heard that she was turfy.
It would not surprise me at all.
That was
it
also
would not surprise
the
me that they've got
Greens.
nothing but. Yeah, there we go.
Well, it's the Green Party of England, Wales. So yeah, of course it's turfy. But I think the animal welfare lady was
specific
turfy as well.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. No, there's just...
Yeah. To be honest, I feel less bad about not voting for this, because essentially you as a socialist, you are just voting for literally a capitalist manager. That is literally what the mayor's job is. You can argue about prime minister and all that kind of stuff, and you can't argue this is literally a capitalist handmaiden.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nothing else.
It would be in Bizarro world where you somehow manage to elect an ardent socialist or communist as mayor of London, and how fucking hilarious that would be. Because
we had Ken, and what happened to Ken? He's the one who he did fight a really long battle against the privatisation of the tube, but he is the one who started off the housing situation that we're in. He was the one who let property developers in. That was in his plan. It's not really talked about that much, but he started.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Well, it's another optimism-filled podcast coming to you from dueling show notes, which I greatly enjoyed, I must say. Anyway, do you guys want to plug your shit? Or not shit? Very good podcast that I do actually listen to.
Yeah, you guys just you do your little thing that we know you came on to do.
Over the speaker and let out a turd, and then we put it up on the internet.
The Romaniacs.
You could.
That's fucking
follow.
Brutal. You can't just call people the Romaniacs. That's fucking hard.
Actually, is it possible to put out a turd and press it into a vinyl and then send it out? It could be like a turd zine that you listen to. That'd be all right. Anyway, sorry. You can follow us at Twitter. at WDTATW_podcast. You can follow Hugh at Tanner Smashing. You can follow me at BM Bergamo. And yeah, you can subscribe to our podcast. We don't talk about the weather at all good outlets.
Yeah. And you can follow us on at PraxisCast, and you can buy our great merchandise and other fine products in our Teespring store, which we'll put a link in the show description. Buy our tats because then I don't know, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We need to keep Jamie in biscuits. So
yeah,
yeah,
and I think Jamie will get more tiered rewards from YouTube if we get more subscribers. So just look for us on PraxisCast because Jamie does actually like put this thing on YouTube with like photos and stuff, and it's kind of cool. So you should subscribe.
Yeah, if you're one of the 10 people who looks at it on YouTube.
But with your support, we can make it a strong 11 and put 10,000 more police on. Anyway, I think that'll...
Oh, well, thanks, thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah.
No worries. Thank you. It's been a blast.
Yeah. All right. Well, goodbye, everybody.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Do you do a clap at the end as well?
No, we just let it peter out and die. That's just more our style.